Let's make you a bit smaller.
Aloha kako. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to share Kuene, a web platform for facilitating Hawaiian word
Can't hear
neologism.
you. Yes. All right, hold on.
Okay. Aloha kako. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to share Kuene, a web platform for facilitating Hawaiian word neologism. I'm Sonny Walker with Winston Wu, Bruce Torres Fisher, and Larry Kimura from the University of Hawaii at Hilo, and I'll be introducing Kuene today. The Hawaiian Lexicon Committee is a coalition of representatives across the state of Hawaii and has, over the past few decades, been a primary source of new words for Olelo Hawaii, the Hawaiian language, and it has been an important part of the revitalization efforts of the language. The committee's process starts with in-person meetings several times a year to introduce, discuss, develop, and promulgate the fruits of their efforts in print in the book Mamakakaiao. But as more content and focus has moved online, publishing their works has become challenging. To address this problem, Kuene was built as an online, multi-user platform in which the committee's new words and definitions are further built upon with examples, cross-references, and more, and then finally published to online dictionaries with ease and speed. Over the past few months, Kuene has facilitated the publishing of over 800 backlogged entries, and we'd like to walk you through many of the features that Kuene provides to accomplish the publication of these new words. As mentioned, the committee goes through several stages while developing new words. They start at 0x with an introduced word, then progress through 1x and 2x, which are a couple of rounds of discussion. Once approved, new words are then put into Kuene, wherein the entries are further refined and expanded upon with the addition of example sentences, references to sources, and links to other new or existing words, and so on. Finally, a specified user advances an entry to a published stage and taps a button to instantly publish the new entry to a widely used online dictionary. Kuene is flexible in that the approval stages are configurable, so different Kuene instances or dictionaries may have their own approval stages to meet the needs of that particular project. Kuene is, in fact, currently supporting 3 different dictionaries. A new entry starts as a headword, which can be entered in any language and may include syllable markers or pronunciation. To aid with searching, headwords may have a different stylized display using italics or quotes that don't interfere with a queried term. And headwords may redirect to other headwords for alternate spellings or different word forms. For example, adding the headword menus with a redirect to menu reduces failed searches without having to input duplicate definitions. Furthermore, there are a few features specific to the Hawaiian language, such as searching with and without the Okina letter or kahako, which is a macron diacritic, as well as sorting based on the Hawaiian alphabet, which differs from English sorting. A headword can have any number of definitions in any number of languages. Definitions may include an ordinal number, a part of speech, a link to external resources, and tagging, which I'll get into later. It's important to note that headwords and definitions each have their own approval stage, which allows, for example, a headword that is published with one definition that is also published and another definition that is still in draft, going through the approval and editing process, say at 2x. At its core, a definition is only the base description of its headword, but to further expand on a definition, it may have attributes. Attributes support or expand on the base definition by adding context, references to related terms, synonyms and antonyms, and more. We can also use attributes to provide hidden data for a definition, such as internal notes for information like corpus frequency or further actions needed by the committee, but I'll touch on comments and reports in a bit. Kuene can also be configured to allow attributes to link to external sources, such as books, websites, or PDFs. This is particularly helpful with our Hawaiian English legal dictionary, which is another project using the Kuene platform. In the legal dictionary, example sentences for a definition of a headword come from case law, and referencing that particular case is important. We're even able to provide example sentences side by side in Hawaiian and English when they're available. One of the other benefits to having attributed sources is that we can look at the data from the other direction. That is, we can aggregate all of the entries to which a particular source is referenced. In the example shown here, we can see a document which has both a Hawaiian and English version, and we can see which headwords reference each of these. In fact, a keen observer may notice that one of the headwords, aha ki'e, is referenced in the Hawaiian documents entries, but not in the English documents entries. So that invites further investigation to ensure the data is complete or if it needs more work. But stepping back a little bit to the attributes, Kuene supports a customizable list with fine-grained controls of how the attributes behave within the platform. The output of a term and its definitions and attributes can be configured with groupings and ordering, and with optional labels for both online display and print. For example, abbreviated labels for printing save space and therefore printing costs, but online display can have full labels for greater legibility. Similar to supporting attributes, Kuene also supports media attachments. These can be images, audio, and video. And because rights management is important, attachments may include credit and license information, such as Creative Commons or copyright. And of course, for accessibility, attachments must include a caption for any visitors not able to see or hear such media. Now, I mentioned that definitions may include tags, and as you may have guessed by now, Kuene's tags are customizable for each project. The New Words Dictionary has different tagging needs than the legal dictionary. Tags may also include descriptions as well as related tags. For example, adding the baseball tag can automatically add the sports tag, so there can be a kind of hierarchical tagging system if the project needs it. I briefly touched on using definition attributes for internal use and how the Lexicon Committee only meets several times a year and is spread across multiple islands. So it's important to allow members and supporters to be able to discuss their work outside of those periodic meetings. Sure, there's email, but unless everyone is on the same email chain, things can get lost, and new committee members won't have access to that historical thread. Kuene helps to address this by allowing its users, but not the general public, to comment on headwords and definitions, so the discussion can be kept in context with what is being discussed and is viewable by any admin user. Now, with multiple people able to work on a project at the same time, Kuene keeps a history of changes made to entries, by whom and when. This provides some accountability and also recoverability in case something gets deleted but needs to be restored. But the change log is only one way in which data integrity is preserved. Another method is with user roles. Kuene uses a user level system wherein committee members and supporters, but again, not the general public, are assigned a role. This can be from the barest read-only role, who may only see but not touch, to someone who can add attributes but not new headwords, to someone like an editor-in-chief who has the ability to set the approval stage of a headword or definition to being final reviewed and published. These roles are somewhat configurable and require additional development to properly ensure only those with sufficient privileges are able to access specific features if they differ from what has already been implemented. I previously mentioned reports. Currently, there are only a handful of reports, but they are very helpful for looking at the data from different perspectives other than the headword with some definitions angle. For example, a user with an editor-in-chief role will find the approval states report helpful for focusing on those entries which are almost ready for production and need their final review and action. The recent changes report allows us to look at only what has been edited recently rather than the thousands of older entries. And the attributes report lets us hone in on specific attributes, such as looking at all the example sentences or all the definition contexts, so we can ensure the grammar and formatting is consistent throughout each without the clutter of the rest of the other attributes. Now, because Kuene has been developed as a multi-language tool, it also supports localization for its user interface. The UI can be localized or translated for multiple languages, all from the admin website, without having to edit the source code. And to assist with the localization efforts, we can integrate with a local LLM to assist. We add in the English phrase, which is embedded in the app source code, select the target language, and tap a button to send a request for a translation. Clearly, though, this is something that should be done with a native speaker as well, so accuracy is maintained and context is not lost. These translations appear in both the public and admin sides of the Kuene app. We're also taking advantage of LLM assistance on the Hawaiian English Legal Dictionary, but on Kuene's public view rather than the admin side. Most of the case laws in this project are from the 19th century, in which they rarely included Okina and Kahako diacritics. The literacy rate in Hawaii at the time was extremely high, so they were able to use a simplified orthography for movable type printing. However, in the current day and lesser language proficiency, most of us rely on those diacritics. For the example sentences, particularly in case law, it's important to show the original text as it was published, but we provide a button which utilizes an LLM to convert text in place to modern orthography. As we're aware, the accuracy of LLM output can be lacking. So we've also provided a feedback feature which allows visitors who are so inclined to correct the LLM's output. We then save that for later use, such as to improve future models after manually filtering out any bad user input. Kuene was initially built from Mamaka Kaiau, the Neologism project by the Hawaiian Lexicon Committee, but now supports 2 other projects as well. Vehi Olelo was just launched and is the first Hawaiian to Hawaiian monolingual dictionary. And there's Olelo Kanawai, the Hawaiian English Legal Dictionary, which is still in very early development. If you have any interest in Kuene, note that it's still in very active development, but isn't quite ready for public distribution. We're currently decoupling it from some dependencies and APIs which cannot be shared. It's written in PHP for use with MySQL, so it's quite easy to deploy and relatively easy to maintain. Please contact me at swalker@hawaii.edu and we can discuss Kuene further if you are interested in it for one of your projects. We'd like to thank you for this opportunity to share Kuene, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now or reach out later. Mahalo.
Questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, mahalo for that, a really neat system. I'm just really curious, what happens to the rejected words?
So there is another, the question being, what happens to rejected words? There's a couple of options. One is that the rejected words still get input in Kuene, but they just, they're set to a rejected stage. And so there's several